Relative value theory. In a previous piece, I stated that I wished to begin studying an interesting and somewhat controversial subject: the law of the opposition of contraries. It was about the seemingly paradoxical aspect that manifests when we try to attract or repel something or someone. Hence, both people and things, and an opposing force intervenes, influencing the desired outcome. The result we obtain seems deeply influenced by our attitude and the direction from which we approach it, either from an area of lack and poverty, therefore out of need, or from an area of wealth or abundance, thus from overflow. The final outcome does not appear to be a product of our will, but of the attitude with which we approach reality and how we position ourselves towards it. The universe seems to retreat from us and avoid us when we are dominated by need, but comes to meet us when we act with detachment from an area where we feel full of possibilities. When we try to attract someone from a zone of need, we indirectly generate in that person a force of rejection. And when we try to repel someone from a zone of completeness, in which we are or position ourselves, we become even more attractive. Although it seems counterintuitive, when we try too hard to attract someone, we involuntarily achieve the opposite effect and appear unattractive. In contrast, when we strive to distance ourselves from someone, we involuntarily become more attractive, as in the Gospel according to Mark 4:25. For whoever has will be given more, but whoever does not have, even what they have, will be taken from them. The explanation I bring to this phenomenon is the following. In today's multicultural context, each person constructs their own reality and hierarchy, based on their experiences, values, and personal perceptions. The variety of perspectives leads to enormous complexity in society, because each individual hierarchizes the world through a unique filter, determined by their personal context, the education received, and the culture from which they come. Thus, what some may perceive as superior or inferior is relative and subjective, and can change over time without there being a scale universally accepted by everyone. This diversity of visions generates the dynamics and complexity of human interactions, explaining why actions and attitudes that work for some may not have the same effect for others, and may produce seemingly contradictory effects, as is the case that initiated this discussion. The theory of relative value, as I have named it, asserts that our relationships and success in various spheres of life are strongly influenced by how we perceive our own value in relation to others, and how this perception changes depending on context or time. The theory starts from the premise that we are essentially attracted to something or someone we consider superior to ourselves, and conversely, repelled by something or someone perceived as inferior. It claims that the seemingly contradictory way in which we function stems from a fundamental attribute of human nature. There is in us a natural force of attraction toward what we perceive as superior to us, and a force of repulsion toward what we perceive as inferior to us, something akin to the force of attraction between a negative particle and a positive one. Each individual is evaluated and evaluates others based on various criteria to which they assign different weights: status, skills, physical appearance, wealth, intelligence, power, youth, etc. Our actions are governed by a natural tendency to seek the approval and affiliation of those we consider superior and to distance ourselves from those we consider inferior. From this filter of strength or weakness through which we perceive those around us stem competitive or collaborative behaviors of support or exclusion. These subtle forces that dominate us are only part of a larger tableau of forces and motivations that govern us. But here, I seek to simplify in order to more easily explain the discrepancy in effect that appears in the dynamics of interpersonal relationships. Between the power we feel over those we draw into our vortex versus the weakness we feel towards those in whose vortex we find ourselves attracted. Indeed, people are attracted as if by a force to partners whom they consider of a superior social, emotional, intellectual value, likely as an evolutionary mechanism encoded in the genetic code to improve chances of reproduction and social ladder success. But it is not about an intrinsic force of attraction actually linked to the value that exists in some people and not in others, but rather more about a perception of it. Changing perceptions can indeed change the dynamics of the forces and relationships generated by them. If an individual begins to feel more or less valuable than they previously perceived themselves, this can influence the attraction and stability of the relationships they have, or the way they reposition themselves in relation to other individuals. Moreover, they can reposition themselves over time, for better or worse. If they gain or lose weight, get married or divorced, remain healthy or become ill, advance in their career or not, age. All these can change our relative value compared to others, and the nature of the force that attracts or repels us in social relationships, thus altering the dynamics of our interactions and the perception of personal value, both in our own eyes and those of others. The irony is that although each individual seeks to associate with someone perceived as superior to themselves through a sort of transitivity, the final outcome often ends up being a relationship of equality. Superiority must be perceived by both parties involved in the relationship, not just one. While everyone might want to work at Google, not everyone gets there because Google also wants to hire the best candidates. Thus, the social relationships market we are involved in becomes highly competitive, a market where everyone wants the best, but not everyone can have the best at the same time. And naturally, they must adjust their aspirations to the level where their demand meets the market supply. Therefore, there is an innate force that draws us towards what we perceive as superior to us and repels us, pushing us to distance ourselves from what we perceive as inferior. Relationships are based on the reciprocity of feelings and interests, on the satisfaction that comes once each partner feels valued and appreciated. But this is just a result of the fact that each feels they have secured a partner who is superior, and this is what they truly value. The rest are just rationalizations of the feelings they have towards the other person. The feeling is given by this force of attraction that emerges from something inferior towards something superior. And this is what gives us the energy on which the feelings that then make the relationship last are built. However, it lasts as long as there is a force of attraction that fuels those feelings. When the force of attraction no longer exists, the feelings die in the absence of the energy to sustain them. But, usually, the feelings die after the genetic code has already been transmitted, so nature has done its job. What happens afterwards matters less. In conclusion, through the existence of this force that draws us towards the superior and repels us, pushing us to distance ourselves from what we perceive as inferior, we can have a more global perspective and can more easily explain why, when we try to attract certain people, and the same applies to things, they increasingly distance themselves from us as our desire for them intensifies. The emergence of this force of rejection, similar to the physical law of action and reaction, highlights an unexpected effect in our interactions. Excessive searching for closeness can, paradoxically, distance us from the object of our desires because it makes us be perceived as inferior. At the same time, detachment or indifference can stimulate attraction because it can make us be perceived as superior, even if we are not. An irony that reflects the complexity of human emotions. We could direct our attention to attract something we perceive as inferior to us, but we simply don't have the heart to do it. It doesn't come naturally to us, and there isn't a feeling or a desire that drives us in that direction. Probably because genetically we are not programmed for devolution, but for evolution. But because those superior to us are also programmed for evolution, they only consider those at their level or higher. In an objective reference system, everyone would have an absolute value, and there would be a clear hierarchy. But in the world we live in, the theory of relative value emphasizes the importance of being aware and presenting our own value to the world for validation, and how this opens or closes the gates of the universe to us in various contexts. It seems that the universe relies on our opinion about ourselves, assuming somehow that we know ourselves best, and, theoretically, we would be the best judges of ourselves. Therefore, it would be advisable not to undervalue ourselves, but to present ourselves in the best possible light. The journey to having something or someone you perceive as superior begins with yourself. It is a process of becoming who you need to be in harmony with what you desire. Because real evolution occurs when you change at a mental level, and when you yourself begin to consider yourself superior and position yourself on the corresponding step. But this is a simultaneous effort on both the mental and real planes, and they support each other. It is like building a house. You need to have the plan you work from and know what you want to do. But at the same time, you need to do the groundwork, brick by brick. Here is how we could practically apply the above statements. Let's say you have a dream, a desire, something you realize is beyond your current abilities, but it is something you would very much like to achieve. Most often, such a desire could be to be in a relationship with a person you have fallen in love with, to have money to afford all sorts of things, to have power or a high social status. The inner journey of transformation that you have to undergo is the following. In the first case, concerning falling in love, things are simple to explain. If you are perceived as being at a superior level, things will go smoothly, and you will have the relationship you desire with your loved one. If you are perceived as being inferior, things will not go well, and you will be disappointed. Your only chance is to evolve until you are perceived as superior. Remember that much of the outcome is determined by how you perceive yourself and how you position yourself, not just by how you are perceived from the outside. If you do not feel within yourself to be at a superior level, or at least equal to what you desire, you will make your own life difficult and decrease your chances in each scenario. In the second case, concerning money, things are a bit more laborious to explain and build. It depends on where you start from, both financially and mentally, from how you view money and the earning or holding of it. If you are very poor when you start out, and the value you assign to yourself compared to other market players with whom you compete to make money, because money does not appear out of nothing, it comes from someone who decides to give it to you or someone else in the market in exchange for a good or a service, you have a small chance to achieve your dream. Remember, it needs to be built brick by brick, both mentally and in reality. How can you do this? At the beginning, because you do not have a sense of superiority in the money-making market, and you cannot trick your brain into believing you are superior in business to someone who has already made $1 million, you need to build this confidence step by step. It should be noted that each individual's self-confidence is affected by the fear of external circumstances and the opinions or reactions of the world. But this can be a subject in itself. I only mention it in passing because it is related to the current theme. There are two ways to build self-confidence. 1. You rely on the successes you have had in the past, and consequently, expect to be successful in the future. This works even if the successes were in different areas than the one you want to excel in now, and every small victory you achieve adds to the foundation of this confidence. It is important to act and expose yourself to new experiences, to learn from them, because each success positively shapes your perception of yourself. 2. When you undertake something new, you try your hardest to detach yourself from the outcome, not to put pressure on yourself to achieve a specific result. You give everything you can, but remain detached from the result. Why do this? Because you do not want to put yourself in a position of inferiority relative to the outcome you want to achieve. You want to be like the athlete who knows they are superior to those they have defeated in the past and will defeat again, not like someone who wonders if they can also win a medal. Someone who has won medals in the past knows they are superior, and this is the feeling you should have. In its absence, at least do not feel inferior, and do not put the pressure on yourself to achieve a better result than you can achieve with the value you have. Once you have achieved a result superior to those in the past, you immediately adapt to the new reality, the value you assign to yourself mentally compared to the market competition. For example, practically speaking, you can increase your self-confidence by entering a business environment where you can learn from those with more experience and seeking help from those willing to give it. This is step 1. You seek help from others. In our case, you enter a business field where you aim to learn from those with more experience, asking for help from those willing to provide it. In fact, this is a general rule in life. For anything you want to do that exceeds your current capabilities, you seek help from parents, close or distant friends, colleagues, or other well-intentioned people. You realize you do not have the intrinsic value to succeed on your own, and you ask others for help, or you pay them to help you. However, typically this step is not enough to ensure success, because you will not become superior with what others are willing to offer you. The level of competitiveness in the market is much higher than what you can achieve through what you receive from others. And this is a limitation you encounter when you want to obtain the goods of this world by calling on others and not through your own efforts. The challenge you may face at this step is the fear of acting and asking others for help, or the fear of failure. The most important thing to keep in mind at this step is that you cannot have a sense of superiority when you seek help from others. By its very nature, this level is one where you adopt a position of inferiority relative to those around you. This step cannot bring you the desired results, but it trains you for them. However, at some point along the way, you realize that you will never succeed through others and must rely on yourself. Then you evolve and move on to step 2, building confidence through focusing on yourself. You see that through others, you cannot evolve toward what you desire, and you realize that a better way to access the goods of this world would be to change yourself, to progress, to evolve to a higher level. You begin to learn and prepare yourself, gaining a sense of superiority over others through expertise and experience that come with time invested in obtaining them. This work of perfecting yourself not only toughens you, but also gives you the confidence that you have evolved from what you were. Without this work, you do not have a basis to consider yourself superior to others with whom you compete in the market. And if you do not believe you are superior, you will not achieve better results than them. The challenge you may encounter at step 2 is falling into the trap of perfectionism and dwelling too much on qualifications beyond the level where further progress is relevant. Step 3, the most important. Updating personal value comes when you realize that you have studied, experimented, given your all, but the results are still delayed. You have done everything that was to be done, and yet something seems not to work well. Something limits your success. Most often, this issue is you yourself, because you have not updated your mental value throughout this process. You have somewhat fallen behind, but there may come a moment when you say, "To hell with everyone and all their ideas, methods, and theories. I know better than they do." And this is the paradigm shift that positions you on a higher step of superiority over others. And because you have worked and educated yourself, toughened on the battlefield, this feeling of superiority is not just a baseless form in your head. It correlates with the value of the things you do. Step 3 is the most important, but it would not have been possible without first going through the first 2 steps. The superiority achieved in step 3 could not have appeared without the groundwork from the beginning. But neither was the work of development alone sufficient without positioning yourself at a higher level of superiority to attract the financial abundance you dreamed of. As I mentioned, you cannot have something superior to the value that the world attributes to you, nor to the one you attach to yourself. This is perhaps the most difficult step. Only now are you where you need to be in terms of attitude, seeing yourself in a new, updated light that reflects all the work done and progress made. This turning point, when you break away from the old image and embrace a new, stronger one, is crucial for attracting success and establishing relationships with others based on equality and mutual respect. The challenge at step 3 is caring too much about the opinions and reactions of those around you and finding it difficult to reposition yourself relative to them in a position of superiority. Perhaps the journey of transformation is easier to understand if we liken it to the path from illness to being healthy again. Initially, you ask around what to do, and then you go to the doctor. The doctor consults you and gives you treatment. This would be step 2, someone helping you. Step 3 would be the placebo effect. You take the treatment, but if you yourself believe it will make you healthy, it helps much more than just the effect of the medications themselves. We live in a world where perception and reality intertwine in a mysterious dance, and it is not clear who leads the dance. It might seem like there is a connection between what I say about step 3 and the law of attraction from the book The Secret, where it's claimed that visualizing and believing in the fulfillment of your dreams is enough for them to come true. However, I do not advocate that. Visualization and belief that dreams will come true are necessary conditions, but they are not sufficient. Without effective actions, nothing happens. Miracles occur in other realms, not ours. Regarding the similarity with the law of attraction, I reiterate. Step 3 has no foundation without the work from steps 1 and 2. Step 3 is a necessary condition, but not sufficient without steps 1 and 2. Moreover, even steps 1 and 2 are not in themselves enough for success. Only the entire suite holds value. None of the individual parts alone ensures success. This is the inner journey of transformation through which we discover our personal power and reconnect with our own value. Through this transformation, we become creators of our own reality and begin to attract towards us what we desired. We start to draw into our vortex the very thing that previously drew us into its vortex. We used to orbit around beings or things that we have now brought into our orbit. It is evident that there is an impulse within us that pushes us towards evolution to be perceived or recognized as individuals of superior value. Practically, Some choose the right path by investing the necessary effort for personal development, expecting to be recognized for what they become, while others choose the easy path and are satisfied just to induce a perception, content, to leave the impression that they are something they are not. For personal evolution to occur, true transformation begins from within, with changing the way we see ourselves. Before aspiring to be recognized as equals or superiors by others, it is essential to first believe in our own value. Thus, in this world, we are not only on a mission to improve our skills and abilities, but also on a journey to change our internal narrative about who we are and what we can become. Because we relate to others based on how we perceive ourselves relative to them, and in this way, we generate a force of attraction or repulsion towards them. Moreover, they generate a force of attraction or repulsion towards us, depending on how they perceive us. The resultant of these forces determines our position in the hierarchy of this world.